Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arapahoe Library's Parenting Strategies series. We're happy you've joined us tonight. I'm Betsy Brainerd, Supervisor of Early Literacy for the Arapahoe Libraries. I am joined by a couple of our early literacy librarians from the Child and Family Library Services team, Mary Cooner and Andy Gallegos. All of the libraries within the Arapahoe Library District are part of a national consortium called Family Place Libraries. As such, we offer a broad range of support to families with young children. One of the ways we do this is through our Family Place Play and Learn workshops. And in those workshops, children play and learn with their adult, and community experts are on hand to answer questions about nutrition, behavior, language development, and early learning in general. The Parenting Strategies program is an evening offshoot of those workshops. We try to provide parents of young children access to experts on topics related to child rearing and development. We have a new topic tonight, and that's the impact of having a new baby in the family. To help us navigate this issue, we are pleased to welcome two early childhood mental health consultants from the AllHealth Network, Annie Deutschman and Matt Burkhart. Before I turn the program over to Annie and Matt, I want to say that although we will have time for questions at the end, you can put them, any of your questions, into the Q&A box at any time. If you have technical questions, please use the chat box for that, and one of the librarians will help you out. And now, over to Matt and Annie.
Thank you, Betsy. Okay, I'm going to share our screen, and then we'll give you a little overview of what early childhood mental health consultants are, and where you might see us in the community, and then we'll get started. Oops. Okay. Okay. There we go. Oh no. Started it halfway through. So thanks for introducing us, Betsy. I'm Annie, and this is Matt that we have with us. We are two of three early childhood mental health consultants for Arapahoe and Douglas counties. Arapahoe County does have a few other agencies that have consultants. So if you have little ones in early learning centers, you may see us or someone that does our same job in your preschool or early learning center, and we come in and observe in classrooms and partner with teachers and caregivers to kind of boost social emotional experiences, find any resources that might be needed for your family or the kids or classrooms, and just kind of work together to make sure all the kids are getting what they need and teachers get extra support from us. And then we also do things like this and provide some education in the community or to staff at our early learning centers that we work with. So feel free to say hello if you ever see us in your centers. So we're going to talk about some tips for first-time parents and caregivers, and then also how to help your little ones adjust when you are having a new addition to the family. It's a big change for all of us. So just some little tips and tricks, and then again, we'll answer any of your questions. And we have some resources in the area that are great for first-time families and just families overall. So just kind of some tips for first-time parents and caregivers, talking with your partner if you have a partner in parenting, and kind of figuring out where the balance is between the things that you really liked about your childhood and want to have and what they experience. Everybody has kind of their different parenting culture. So having those discussions on what your expectations are can be really helpful. And looking into local resources and activities for your families. And we're going to give you some of those too coming up here in a minute. And just talking with your partner or people you're going to be caregiving with about the things that you feel really strongly that you're going to be able to do well, and anything that maybe you feel worried about, or when are you going to need a secret signal of, okay, I can only listen to a baby screaming for 15 minutes, or I might go crazy and then I'm going to have to tag you in, kind of come up with those plans for things ahead of time. So in those crazy moments, which I'm sure there are plenty of, you might have that backup plan in place. And checking in with each other is really important. You will hear about postpartum complications and depression often. And something that people don't always think about is that, I think, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 1 in 10 fathers experience postpartum depression.
Yep.
And it's not something you hear about, but it can happen on both sides. And we just actually we're at a training earlier where we learned, they talk about pregnancy brain or mommy brain. Your brains change when you become a parent or caregiver. And so sometimes those things happen, and that can happen for both female and male caregivers and parents. So just interesting things to think about. So checking in with each other, and also Matt had pointed out taking advice with a grain of salt. He's a dad, and I'm sure he knows you get lots of different advice. And so
Yeah. So make sure everybody's going to offer you tons of advice on what to do, but just remember each child and each parents are different, and some advice might be great with you guys, and some advice, may not work for your specific situation and your family dynamics. So you want to make sure that you nod and say, "Oh, thank you for your advice," but then I don't know if that's going to work for my family, So keep that in mind, that different cultures, different family values and all that will change how different families act with one another.
totally. And then here are some resources, and we'll have this sent to all of you guys to make sure you have all these resources on hand that you can just kind of click on the link. So this is resources for pregnant and new parents. So 211 Colorado it's a really great place to find tons of different resources, focusing on early childhood, new families, things like that. The Nurse Family Partnership really does a lot of excellent work with postpartum families. Lots of great resources, lots of great information. So a great place to check out and get familiar with. And the CDC as well. Their website has lots of kind of overall general resources for new families. The Nurse Family Partnership is based around here, so you might get some more of that localized stuff a little bit easier. And then any of your local healthcare and behavioral health agencies. So we work for AllHealth. We have outpatient therapies as well. And there's plenty of other places around mental health and all those different places depending on where you live. And so they all have great resources and things at their disposal to share with you all. And then also to the suicide hotline, you can just dial 988 here in Colorado if you are having any complications and feeling like you need some support.
And I think they text too. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they text.
I think you are correct that you can do a text in an emergency situation or any situation where you're feeling the need for that, which is a great option as well if you don't feel comfortable talking on the phone with somebody. And then ways to prepare your child for an addition to the family, because we all know it's hard for adults to have big changes, and it's really hard for kids as well, even if it's a great change. So just kind of discussing those upcoming changes, what your child can expect. Going to be different. We're going to have a baby. How do we help care for them? Offer to answer any of the questions that they may have. And sometimes I've seen people that if they have noticed that their child is already having a difficult time before baby has come, sometimes buying them a little gift. And it could be, you get matching toothbrushes, and I realize your infant is not going to be brushing their teeth, but just kind of a little thing that's from them, that they each have their own thing, kind of shows them, well, of course you're going to have to share, but they're not coming in to take all your toys and all your mommy and daddy, and or just like matching shoes, or maybe a little stuffed animal from the dollar store and they each have a matching one. So sometimes that can be helpful. Get your kid on board with, all right, I'll share my parents with this other person that gave me a little gift. And then practice helping care for babies, either using stuffed animals or baby dolls, and kind of showing them, okay, how do you hold them? And let's be gentle, really praising them when you see them doing things like that. Is really helpful. And sometimes kids just don't know how to act with a little baby. I've heard parents say, well, they're always poking them in the eye, but not to be mean, just they're curious. Like, well, okay. So just kind of, practicing how we act with our babies.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to talk about the challenges that it's going to bring too, like especially if they share a room and the baby wakes up in the middle of the night crying, make sure you talk about that, and just all the challenges that they might throw food at you or on the floor, things like that. And then I think it also changes with the age of your older sibling, if there is an older sibling in the house too. Obviously, a teenager is going to know a lot more than a toddler is about, babies and everything.
Yes, you don't have to make your teenager practice on a baby doll. Unless they want to.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless they want to.
That's fine. And just, I think too, knowing that there are going to be changes, and especially with some of the younger ones, you may see some of those regressions. If they are in a child care center or with a caregiver in the day that's not you, let them know, hey, when you're comfortable to do so, we're having a change coming up. I think we need some help adjusting. So all the adults in their life can kind of be supporting that, giving them that extra love. And just, no, it's okay to go with the flow. We're going to see changes. Nothing is going to be ruining your kid's life and their development. That's all pretty normal stuff. And then how do we help our kids adjust to their new sibling? I think just even acknowledging their feelings. There's going to be moments, if you have an infant, that your kid or other child wants to play or have your attention, and you have to go feed them or change a blowout diaper or whatever it is. And so just say, I know it's really hard to wait, and I really want to spend time with you too, but we can't hit or whatever. If there's something like that going on, kind of acknowledging their feelings, validating those feelings, and then redirecting if there's a behavior that you're not particularly enjoying coming along with those feelings. And planning special time together. And this might be 5 minutes where you can set a timer, baby's gone to bed, and just intentional, we're going to play this game together, or we'll snuggle, or whatever it is. Even just 5 minutes a day, that alone time can benefit so much. So don't feel it's like, oh gosh, well, how am I supposed to have a whole hour to do this thing? Or if it's a crazy day, a couple minutes will do the trick. And just kind of planning that special time for them, the older sibling, to have that with you. And it doesn't have to be something like Matt said, they each do dates with their kids, and sometimes it's just going to the park or whatever. So it doesn't have to be this thing that we're going to the amusement park and spending $300 or whatever. And of course you can do that too, but you can find little special, meaningful ways that will help your kids feel connected to you. And
even just playing with them and having them direct the play, and you kind of just following their lead. Oh, you don't want me to walk in the door in the dollhouse that way. You want me to walk in through the back door. I don't know, or fly in from the roof, let them direct the play too. Really helps with the bonding.
And it gives them that sense of control too, when it kind of feels a little out of control for them with new things happening. So, and that's a nice, healthy, safe way for them to get that control as well.
Yeah.
And then just discussing what to expect when baby arrives, like Matt was saying, what might happen if you're sharing a room, or what'll happen if the baby needs to be fed and you want to play, and all that kind of stuff. And then helping the siblings build a relationship with their big sibling and their baby sibling. Matt, do you want to touch on, I know this first one?
a really great way to introduce baby and sibling together is whenever they can. I know hospitals recently were not letting older siblings into the hospital once baby was delivered. So hopefully they're allowing that now, but having your older siblings sit on the floor, crisscross applesauce, and placing the baby in their lap to start that initial bond and everything. Serotonin is a great thing to help that bond, and it's called the snuggle hormone for a reason, because we get that hormone going when we snuggle. So having, that snuggle serotonin start going as fast as possible in their relationship will really help create that bond between them. Having them help them if they want. Obviously, don't force them to do things that they don't want. So don't say, oh, go feed the baby, because that's putting them in a parenting role and not a sibling role. And that would put a lot of strain on their relationship. But if they would like to help feed the baby and stuff, teach them how to do that and help them through that, because that means they want to be involved in the baby's life and they love the baby. So, and then I know for my kids, I always love, and they're almost teenage. Well, my son is a teenager, my daughter's almost a teenager, and they kind of hate me doing it, but I still do it anyway. I point out little ways they love each other. So it's not the outward, I love you, or I give you a hug. It's the, oh, I got him a drink, or, I got him a glass of water or a napkin, just those little things that show love, and helping our kids recognize that love doesn't have to be just said or shown in that way. It can be shown in other different ways. If you're familiar with the 5 love languages, kind of go off of that, there's gift giving and stuff like that. And just getting a glass of water, that's kind of gift giving. So that shows love. So just kind of point those out to your kiddos as they grow older. Yeah, I think I touched on everything.
I think so. And I think there is too, the love languages. I think there's one that's geared about like your children's love languages. And
Yeah.
that, I think the other one is a little bit more like adult relationship type of a thing. So that might be, I don't know the title of it, but it's probably the 5 love languages of children or something similar.
Something like that.
Find out. And then we have some resources here for you. So I'll kind of just go through those real quick. So in Arapahoe County, we have the Arapahoe County Early Childhood Council. So that's the ACECC. It's a lot of letters. And they have a lot of great resources, parenting classes, classes for teachers, tons of different things. Great place to check out. Douglas County also has the Douglas County Early Childhood Council. Same thing. They have a lot of great resources, pretty involved in universal pre-K, if you're familiar with that. I can't really see. Okay. And then Colorado Shines is a good one to check out if you are looking for schools, preschools, early learning centers. They have a whole list of ones that are registered or licensed and rated by Shines. And then this next one here is our website that you can go to if you're needing behavioral support, if the child care center you go to is needing that for your child or for their classroom or wanting some education. This is where anyone can go to sign up to work with a consultant. And then again, this is that 211 we were talking about before, just tons of information. And then Bright by Text is a great one. You can sign up and they will send you a text. And I don't know if it changes the frequency based off of what you choose, or it's either once a week or once a month. And you put in your child's age and it will send you, hey, in Lakewood, there is an event that's great for 2-year-olds this weekend, or they'll send you a bit of information. Here's what your child might be learning right now or working on. So it's really neat and kind of geared towards your child and their age and things that might be happening in the area that you can go and kind of maybe meet some other families and all that fun stuff. And then that's the Nurse Family Partnership, the CDC, like we were talking about. I think that's all one. And again, Betsy will send over this whole list of things to you all. And we're happy to send the PowerPoint as well if there's anybody that would like it. So now we can,
I think they would like it. We had a question about that. Thank you.
awesome. Yes, I'll send that over to you too. And then let's look, I'm going to open the chat. Maybe I'll stop sharing now and then we can.
Yeah, we just wanted to leave it open for a lot of questions because we know there's probably a lot of questions out there, maybe, hopefully.
Yes, so just go ahead and type your question in the Q&A.
You're always welcome to reach out to at another time if something comes up or you want to problem solve something. We can get you.
What's the process for getting services with you?
So for getting services with us, you would go to, I think it was the third or to last or second to last link in that list. It takes you to the Department of Early Childhood's website where you can find information on consultation. So either families, caregivers, center directors, teachers can fill out a referral and kind of let us know what's happening, what they need resources for, and what they're mainly needing support on. And then that will get assigned to one of us or one of the other teams if you're in Arapahoe County, potentially. And then we reach out and kind of get the info. So if a teacher or someone else or a doctor was to sign you up, we would need your permission, obviously, to observe your child and all of that stuff. So we'd reach out to you first for that.
Okay.
And then, yeah, you get started.
Great.
Yeah,
we have a couple of questions now.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll start with the first one I saw. Do you have any advice for parents with a small age gap around a year between kids? Oh man. That's it. That sounds tough. Matt?
That's going to be a lot of diapers. But just still that bond, I think, creating that bond. But also I think of this a lot in twins. When I see twins, they grow up so close together that they don't really grow up with their own identity too. So making sure that they have the time to create their own identity and who they are as a person, I think is important as well.
And I know a friend of mine her two boys are very close in age. And if you have the luxury to be able to do this summer, she said, okay, instead of making it easy on myself and having them go to the same camp every day or whatever activity they're doing, I let them pick their things they wanted to do, within reason, of course, so they could have that chance. Cause I know she's noticed that too, it's sometimes hard to find their own thing. So kind of when you can, having them explore the things that they like and sharing them with each other and signing them up for different things, or even just, exploring those things with them.
Yeah, my nieces are twins, my niece and nephew, sorry. And they put them in different kindergarten classes for the very first time. They separated them and they noticed that my nephew is actually being more social and outgoing and starting to take his own way in life, because before my niece was kind of controlling him and kind of doing things for him. So
That's funny. Know who the bossy one is, I guess.
Any advice for families considering whether a second child is the right for the family, and how will this impact the first? So yeah, it's going to be a personal decision. Unfortunately, I don't think either one of us or anybody can answer that question for you. It's really going to be a family decision and up to you guys. It always impacts a child, the firstborn. I forget what it's called, but basically the first child's on a throne, their entire life. And then when the second baby comes, they're knocked off the throne. And not saying that the other baby's put on the throne, but your attention gets divided and everything. So it will impact. But I think making the time for your first and knowing that, hey, you're not going to be abandoned. I'm still here for you. I still love you, will help. Do you have anything to add, Annie?
I think that's good. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I have a daughter going to kindergarten. So new school, new teacher, new everything. I am due mid-September. How can me and my husband help her with all of the new things that will take place? So I think kind of what we were talking about before, really just kind of talking about what's going to be happening and how it's going to be different and who they can talk to if they're feeling scared or nervous or whatever. And even to, like, you could even make almost your own little social story and write it down and have them color stuff, and so they could look at it, and you can go in your room and relax if you're feeling overwhelmed, and kind of just really acknowledging those feelings. And if you see behavior that you're kind of like, this is not something we've dealt with before, kind of remembering, okay, we're going through a lot. And maybe even just naming that, you know what, I know things are really different right now and it's pretty hard. So let's just go snuggle on the couch for a little and then we can talk about it. Or just taking those breaks, but acknowledging that that's probably part of what is happening there. I think can just help them at least express it to you potentially in the future, maybe better than what you're seeing first.
Yeah. And then just, new school, new teacher. I mean, that's a lot of change for a little guy or a little girl. Sorry, little girl. So just like Annie said, recognize that and be there to support her and, be able to just be with her and validate her feelings. Say, yeah, it's a lot right now. I know you're worried about school, because a lot of times kids get worried about big school, making new friends and everything too. Especially if nobody they know is going there. So just validating those feelings.
And when you get to know the teacher that they have this upcoming year, filling them in, hey, this is all new. We have this other new thing. So just kind of letting them know. And I think, kindergarten teachers are pretty awesome and know that everybody's probably struggling a little bit with these big changes and all the different expectations and all of that. So but just filling them in that you've got even a little bit more change happening, so they can make sure to give them that extra love and have the social worker check in with them if you feel that would be something that would be helpful, and just help with some of those coping skills.
And then also check in with each other, because you both, mom and dad, are also going through a lot of big changes. I know I started to tear up when my son went to kindergarten, and my daughter. So it's big because your little baby's growing up and it's big school time, so check in with each other, because you guys are also going through a lot of change, and your mental health will affect your kids' mental health too.
Absolutely. Good point, Matt. Okay. And then one more question. It looks like, can you speak? Oh, two more. Yay. Can you speak to techniques for involving an older sibling, about 3, in appropriate play for a 1-year-old? I think this will be a lot of modeling on your part and really guiding that play, because they don't really know at that age how to play with. They barely know how to play with other kids really great at that age, let alone a younger child than them. So really showing them, talking them through it. Oh, we have to be gentle, or, whatever it is that you're kind of experiencing. So really just showing them, oh, baby can't play this game, but I bet you could show them your toys and maybe give them something to snuggle, and kind of just finding those things that they can do appropriately together. So, a lot of times the 3-year-olds are like, here's a car, and like throwing it at them across the room. And because, that's what they would want to do. But I don't think the infant likes that. So just kind of helping them find appropriate play, and really you might have to be there with them, facilitating it for a while until they get the hang of it.
Yeah. And sitting down on the floor and playing and doing that play with them and teaching them that appropriate play. And I'm going to say mostly to dads, but try to not horseplay around and wrestle, because that does usually translate into the child care facility. And then you get some incident reports written home and stuff. So just model that good behavior, that good play between you and the 1-year-old, as well as the 3 and the 1-year-old.
And if you do kind of horse around, if you have a little bit of older kids, really setting that boundary of this is something we can do at home. We don't do this at school. And then if we start seeing it at school, we'll take a break from playing like this. And I know sometimes too, if you have multiple older siblings, they love to do that kind of play as well. So it can be tricky. Okay. I'm considering therapy for my 5-year-old. And what does that look like? How does a young child participate in therapy? That is a great question, because sometimes it's hard to visualize, like, what are they doing in there? Oftentimes when children are in therapy, the therapist is also going to be talking with you, working with you, talking about parenting strategies, and really working with you on issues around parenting. And if you need therapy for other things too, they can get you set up with someone, but they'll often just be playing with your child and doing different exercises that kids can grasp and working on those coping mechanisms and skills that they can utilize. So it's kind of fun to see, because they have all these different fun things. And Matt used to be one of our clinicians. And so maybe you could speak a little more to that, Matt, what they could expect.
I think it's going to be different with every therapist that you run into, and you want to make sure you find the right therapist for you and your family. If you go in and do a couple sessions with the therapist and you're not feeling a good fit there, go ahead and move on. It's okay. Not everybody fits well together. So don't be afraid to just say, I don't think this is working out for us. I think we're going to find somebody else. So don't be afraid to do that. For early childhood therapy, the people that are versed in early childhood therapy, like Annie said, will bring the parents into it, because it is a system. You guys are a family system, and to best affect the child, we have to work with the system. But there's different modes of therapy. I know play therapy is one of them. And I'm going to reference one of our therapists. She told me a story where she was doing play therapy, and the child, I think he was 2 or 3, would always grab a baby doll and a snake and wrap the snake around the baby doll's neck. And so what was going on there, she finally figured it out through talking to the parents, that in utero, the baby actually had the umbilical cord wrapped around their neck. So the child was still living out that trauma that happened in utero. So that's what the benefit of play therapy is. And we just, as adults, need to figure out what the child is actually doing in that play. And then other work or other types of therapy could include bonding, making sure parents are really bonded with their child and everything, making sure that it's appropriate bond. Me and Annie will do, I don't know when we have the next one on the books, but it's called Circle of Security, where the training teaches about attachment theory, basically, and how good attachments are and everything. So those are kind of different types of therapy that you can do with little kids. As they get older, 5-year-olds, you can start into cognitive behavioral therapy a little bit. I used to do a anxiety-driven therapy with some kids, challenge that worry brain. What's your worry brain called? Bob Retta, my worry brain is called Bob Retta, and it's telling me that, if I go into the pool, I'm not going to breathe anymore or something, Well, how often does that happen? Oh, never? Okay. So, fighting off those worry brain with facts and everything. So those are some of the different types of therapy. There's tons out there. There's also mindfulness and stuff like that too. But just to give you a little insight into it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Matt. Does anyone else have any more questions?
Waiting to see. We have another few minutes if anybody wants to pop another question in there. While we wait to see. Yeah.
I'm curious if anybody had any follow-up questions that, just to make sure we answered all your questions to the fullest too.
Actually, the library does have a training that we did before about co-parenting or parenting with, like, if you have a family member that's a caregiver for your child or things like that. So that might be helpful. You can watch I'm Famous on YouTube. And that might have some good tips, but I think boundaries, especially if you have family members that you're not sure will have a relationship that you would expect with your child, or maybe, it's that
Annie?
you don't.
Can I just interrupt that you might want to repeat the question because only the
Oh.
panelists can see those, so they
Oh.
might know what question you're answering.
Yep. This is any advice for managing extended family relationships with a new baby. Sorry, I realized I was reading it to myself and not out loud. So yeah, I think just setting those boundaries with your family members, especially if you're concerned, like, ooh, really don't want them to be around this person as much because I don't think they parent the same way that I do, or whatever it is, just setting those boundaries and expectations. And then also allowing your children to set those boundaries of, I don't want to hug right now. I don't want to hug grandma when I first get it out of the car from a nap. And that's okay. Because us teaching them to follow boundaries, otherwise they will never be able to do that themselves or set boundaries. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think, yeah, boundaries and setting expectations with family members of what you'd like the relationship to look like. And then, okay, let's see. Once we connect and work with you, could it be an ongoing relationship if it's a good fit? So as far as us consultants, there usually is an end date for that. We do our assessments and different work in the school and following up with you. And once we don't need that anymore, that will go away. Obviously, if something comes back up or your other child needs something, you just fill out a referral again and we'll come back to see you, or, virtually or in the schools. And then if you were to be working with one of our clinicians for outpatient therapy, that would go on as long as you need it to go on. And again, it's one of those things too. Maybe you feel you're kind of wrapped up with therapy, and then in a year, you're like, oh, I need to check back in a little or kind of remember my strategies. So it's never an end. Well, until your child becomes 6, and then that's where we stop. But yeah, so
Yeah, and
semi-ongoing.
with consulting and therapy, both, they have goals that we come up together with. So like a therapist would come up with a goal for you, and once that goal is met, you either make another goal or you end the relationship. But like Annie said, you can, if stuff comes up again, then we can always address it again.
Yeah. Okay, looks like we have a few more. Can you recommend how to find good babysitters? I know when I first moved here, I don't know if you're on social media, a lot of times there will be like a neighborhood or a town group for parents for the area you live in. And sometimes they will have like a specific 1-2 caregivers and sitters. And so I know some people have felt comfort in that, of finding somebody and then having 10 other people say, yes, love that person, totally reliable. Or like somebody might message you and say, absolutely do not call that person, bad experience, whatever. So kind of nice to get that neighborhood approach. And there's always care.com and things like that. But that costs money, and you got to do background checks and pay for them, which is great if that's what you would like. But that other option might be kind of a Facebook or like a next door type of a thing. Or even if your child is in school, kind of seeing other kids, if they're asking their parents who their go-to person, if they have someone that they're willing to let you also steal away. You can have Saturdays, we'll have Fridays. So that's what I would recommend. I don't know if you have anything else, Matt, on that one.
go with who you trust, so I mean, make sure you interview them, make sure you have a good feeling about them too. If you don't, then I would not. And then also same thing with like a therapist. If it's not working out, make sure you separate. So
Yes. Yeah, somebody told me once therapy is like getting a therapist is like dating. Some people are lucky enough to find the one the first time, and others have to, try a few. So don't ever feel stuck in a therapy relationship if you don't feel it's the right fit for you. And chances are the person doing the therapy might feel the same way as well. So it's a discussion you can have, and it's not going to hurt their feelings.
and I think that translates to the babysitters too.
Absolutely. And even too, you could always have somebody come over and almost do like a trial, come for an hour or two. Maybe you go upstairs or sit outside where the kids can't see you. And kind of that way you can kind of get that first impression, talk to your kids, and all of that. And then, okay, I'm having difficulty with my toddler being overly friendly with strangers and talking to neighbors, random people on the street and the stores, etc. They don't understand that some people are dangerous, and I don't want to teach them people are bad. I think there are some kids that are just really friendly, and there are some kids that maybe there's some attachment stuff going on that they don't have stranger danger. But I think just talking it through with them, oh, that's a stranger, so we could wave, give a friendly wave, and then keep moving. And just kind of another thing, if they're in school, a lot of times the really, really friendly kids come up and they want to hug every single person that comes in the room. And so that might be where you could have the teacher back you up on that. Oh, that's so-and-so's dad. You can ask for a hug because we know him and he's not a stranger. And so just kind of really talking that through with them. And I don't know if there's maybe any good books out there about stranger danger without like terrifying your child.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah. And then the 988 service is that's the suicide hotline. So if you are feeling like that's something you need, you can just simply type 988. And I don't know if it's like star or
I think it's just 988. It's like 911.
oh, okay. So
It's
just
a
dial.
nationwide number. Yep. So you can just dial that. You can dial it or text it, and somebody will hop on the line and talk with you. And they'll probably want to know your location first and foremost, and then they will just talk to you and see how it's going, and yeah, hopefully help you out.
That was a good batch of questions.
Yeah.
That was.
I'm going to add more to the PowerPoint now. Other things I didn't think of.
Oh, we'll wait just another minute, see if anybody has any questions, any more questions. We've hit a lull, but sometimes people need to process. I just want to reiterate that we can help you get books on any of the subjects that have been discussed tonight. And it's often a really great way to launch a conversation with your child is to read a book on the issue that's bothering them.
And actually, that's another type of therapy too, is bibliotherapy, reading books to children about the different situations and social situations. And then, as Annie brought up earlier too, making those social books that I'm just going to use hand washing, we'll take the steps through hand washing or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you can take them through whatever steps need to with their like adding pictures of themselves and stuff in it.
Thank you, Andrea.
It
was great.
Yes, that was nice. Well, I guess, let's see. Another one.
Of ways for new parents to connect with others who are also new parents and helping reduce isolation as new parents. Yeah, that's a big one. I'm gonna also shout out to libraries. I think libraries could probably help you out with that. But Facebook groups and things of that nature. If you go into childcare settings, talking to those parents that are in your child's class is always great too. It looks like baby story times is a good way. So
And that right by text we talked about too. I think they send events. So you'll likely at those meet parents of kids around your child's age because they're usually kind of developmentally based. So those might be a good place too. But yeah, the library always has good stuff. And now that it's summer, hitting the playgrounds, all that kind of things, you'll find hopefully you'll see other parents and then you can befriend them.
And we should also mention that we have something called Library Babies, which is a free kit that will go to any parent of a new baby, and it has free books and information about the library. And just go to our website and sign up for it, and we'll mail it to you. So,
Nice.
awesome.
oh, Andy's on the ball. There it is.
Well, thank you all so much.
Yes, well, thank you, Matt and Annie. And that was a lot of excellent information and advice for families with new babies. We really do
Yay.
appreciate you being here to share your expertise with us. And thanks to everyone who attended the program tonight. I apologize that apparently there was a glitch and the Zoom link didn't go out as it ordinarily does, but I hope you were able to get in and get the information you needed. And this program has been recorded, and we'll send out a recording, and it will be available on our website in a few days. And finally, I wanted to let you know about our annual early literacy speaker event. This year, we're going to welcome Allie McDonald, author of Raising a Rockstar Reader, on August 9th at Coble Library and August 10th at the Smoky Hill Library. And everyone who attends will take home a free book and bag full of literacy tools to use at home with their children. So look for that at registration information starting July 1st. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks.